All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So today's lesson is going to be about the beginning of our country up until um, the uh, the Pilgrims and all those guys come over. All right. Now I know there's a lot of time that happened between when the nomads crossed the ice bridge into America, North America continent, and South America. Um, but basically, we're just condensing it really down because there's a lot of other stuff we got to get to in U.S. history. But we're going to be talking about like the Native Americans and the first civilizations in the North American continent and how basically information was crucial to start civilizations, not just in one part of the North American continent, but the North and South American continents. And we'll be ending it with uh, the explorers who are coming over and stuff like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So here are your standards, your essential questions, your objectives. We're going to analyze the real reason for Columbus's voyage. Okay, we're going to examine the significance of information and trade amongst early civilizations. Like what type of trade is understandable. You trade an apple for an orange, things like that, right? But information, how is giving information how is that valuable? We're gonna be talking about that, and you're gonna one of them is like still is just mind blowing to me how they this one group used information to help their civilization and their tribe. Lastly, we're going to create an argument on how our country would have been different if civilization never developed amongst the nomads. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to our warm up. Now, I know on your worksheet it's black and white, you know, but that's why I have these on YouTube so you can see it, the colors. So as you can see, there's different flags, right? And it's going into that pot. And the spillage is, as you can see, the red, white, and blue, the United States. So what do you think this artist is trying to say about America? Okay, so again, look at the flags above, the spillage, that makes up America. What do you think this artist is trying to say? Okay. Um, if by chance, challenge yourself with this, um, try to name all the flags, the countries that represent each flag. You know, some of them might be a little bit harder, but some of them you guys might just pick off like that. But see if you can name all the flags. Name all the countries. Okay. So, um, write your response, pause the video, because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So here's the thing about U.S. history, especially the early, very beginning. No one can definitively say on this day at this time, the first man, woman, whoever put their foot down in the North America continent. We can't say that. Why? We have no proof. We have an idea. There's again, historians, we use evidence, you know, tools and bones and things like that. Stuff that helps us like realize like, okay, based off the carbon dating of this stuff, how deep it was buried underneath, so much time has passed, blah, blah, blah. We have an idea, okay? But again, no one can say definitely on this day at this time, this is when the first person crossed the ice bridge into the North American continent and set foot. No. Our best guess are based off the data and based off the research and evidence. Says between 15 to 30,000 years ago, the first group of nomads came over. Okay. And that's what they were believed to be, nomads. Nomads, again, if you don't remember from last year's class, you should have learned about them. These are people who travel. They go where the food is. They don't have like a stationary home. They basically set up their camps, and when the food moves, they move too. When the weather gets too cold, they move as well. So and then they have a path that they usually follow, you know, or they try to, if the food somehow goes scarce, they wander off. They don't just sit in one area. Now, the thing is, the Native Americans started to learn how to do agricultural work. That's farming, domesticating wild animals. So, like wild boar, these pigs that just ran around everywhere in the wild. They basically contained them, fed them, made them civil so they weren't as wild. And then from there, mated them and had little boars, little piglets, and things like that. And then they had food, you know. The other thing was storing food, not just, oh, we picked some stuff and we're going to save it till next week. No, 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 no. Let's save it for when the winter comes, when we'll really need it, you know. And basically, that's one of the fundamental things of humans. We need food, water, we need shelter, and clothing. Now, once we have those things, then we don't have to worry about the basic needs for survival. Then we can start looking at things and like thinking about why are we here? What's our purpose on this earth? Um, you know, creating art, showing our history and things like that. That's where civilization starts. Once you take care of the basic needs, which a lot of these Native Americans did, then they can focus on other things. Okay. Now, the earliest civilizations to really start happened around 1500 BC to 1200 BC, and that group was called the Olmecs in basically southern Mexico. Okay, they are credited with being the oldest civilization in the um, American continents. Okay, now the thing is, like I said, it wasn't just that they grouped together and things like that. No, they had religion, they had culture, they had artwork. They had a system of government, things like that. Okay. Now later on, you'll have the Toltecs, and then later on you'll have the Mayans and the Aztecs. The Mayans and the Aztecs, these guys kicked it up a notch, as you can see from those top two pictures. They built impressive civilizations, impressive stone structures, as you can see, and pretty impressive trade routes. Now, like the Mayans basically kind of in a sense little disappeared, and a lot of their buildings, some of that were reclaimed by the jungle. The Aztecs, as you're going to see in a little bit, had a different twist of fate, sadly. But basically, their structures and their civilization was pretty impressive. Now, news of how to cultivate, to grow crops and things like that traveled and soon spread to North America. And that's one of the things during the trade routes is what they traded. Sometimes they would trade, okay, hey, we'll take some furs, things like that, and we'll show you guys how to grow crops. We'll show you how to get water from this area to this area, from from over here way to all the way to you. Instead of you guys carrying buckets of water, so that we can show you how to get the water to you. And that's one of the key things in civilizations is access to water and having food year round. um, and it got pretty impressive to the point where like tribes like the Hohokam in Arizona, and if you've ever been to Arizona, it's like desert land. It's hot. It's still like that to this day. But this tribe, from learning how to cultivate using irrigation and getting water to them, they were able to grow food in the desert. As you can see from this bottom picture, this is a representation of their homeland. And it was pretty impressive. Still to this day, it's pretty impressive to get uh, the ground, desert ground, to be able to be fertile enough to grow crops. And you may or may not know this, it doesn't just take a week or a year, it takes a lot of time to get desert sand to be cultivated to where it can sustain crops and grow things regularly instead of just like, oh, 1 year and it's good and the next couple years it's bad, so pretty impressive. All right, so now we're going to go to the other side of the world, the old world as it was known. People across Europe couldn't get enough of items from Persia, India, and China. Those items were specifically like spices, perfumes, fine silk, and jewels. Because again, as you probably know, there are some things that uh, don't grow or not are not found in certain areas. So sometimes you have to look at elsewhere in the world. You know, their own this jewels, gems, and stones are only uh, created on one side of the world. Well, these Europeans were like, well, I want that, and I'll pay big money for it. So there were some people who were like, you know what? We should stage up caravans. These are basically merchants who are on boats and, have wagons and so that. And they're making their way towards Persia, India, China to buy stuff there, cheap and then sell it huge in Europe. You know, it's kind of like here in California in the valley, you see a lot of people selling strawberries and cherries and things like that, right? But you go to somewhere in like Hawaii where they don't have strawberries and cherries and some of that you can sell that over there at pretty high price because why? They don't have it. But here in the valley where you and I are at, it's pretty cheap because it's grown everywhere, you know. So these caravans were very profitable, but at the same time there was a bunch of risk, not only going through land, but also through the ocean. Now, once word spread that hey, people are willing to spend good amount of money for this stuff, countries like Portugal, Spain, France, England, they wanted in on this. And so they encouraged their people to go, yeah, go to Persia, go to India, go to China, get that stuff so you can bring it back, sell it, and then the countries would then tax those people, and then the country makes money, you know, and that's all it was. It's a race. So they sent ships and traders and wagons and stuff like that. But like I said, not every one of them came back successfully, and some of them never came back because bad things happened to those um, ships and caravans. All right, so in August of 1492, an Italian captain named Christopher Columbus convinced the king and queen of Spain to fund his expedition. But instead of going east, he said, I'm going to try west. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain more about this on a TikTok video because I don't want to make this video even longer, explaining why uh, Columbus went west, the whole Earth being round story, you know, things like that. Um, that will be on a TikTok video. It's not going to be on this because, again, I want to keep this video short for you guys. But so if you are interested, again, on your worksheet at the very, very end, it tells you how you can find me on TikTok. Okay. Now, Columbus, again, convinced the king and queen of Spain to fund his expedition, and they give him three ships: the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. That question is going to be on your first quiz. Which of these is not one of the three ships Columbus got from the King and Queen of Spain? Okay, so just keep those names: Nina, Pinta, Santa Maria. Keep that in the back of your head, okay? Now, Christopher Columbus, believe it or not, was not the first European to discover the New World. Okay, believe it or not, that was Leif Erikson. Now, who in the world is Leif Erikson? How come we never heard about this guy? How come he's not, all, how come he doesn't have a holiday named after him and some of that? Well, the thing is, Leif Erikson was a Viking from Scandinavia. And the thing is, Vikings were known as kind of like barbarians back in the day. They were seen as just brutes and just, they're uncivilized and things like that. But they were explorers. And um, Eric the Red, Leif Erikson's dad, actually discovered like Greenland, Iceland, things like that. But Leif saw like some land. He was like, hey, what's that over there? I'm going to go explore that. Ended up being northern Canada. Okay. Now, again, why isn't Leif Erikson more known? Well, because the thing is, he didn't announce it like Columbus did. He didn't go around saying, hey, look at me. I discovered this new land. You guys should follow me and listen to me and things like that. Because again, one, it's not all hyped up. It's like, oh, cool, found some more territory. And also, um, again, like I said, the Vikings, nobody really took them seriously in the sense of like, oh, they're explorers and they're trying to, um, you know, try to expand an empire and stuff like that, through culture and things like that. They were just seen as barbarians. So, yeah. And also, he didn't launch a movement like Columbus, because once Columbus came back and brought back food, um, and he even brought back people from the West Ind, the Indies, the islands. They thought there was he thought it was India. That's why they called the people Indians. But he brought back people and was like, "Hey, look at look what I found." And things like that. Look at all this food and things we've never seen before. It's a new part of the world, and you know, and from there, other countries like Portugal was like, "Oh, we gotta send boats out there see what's going on." So Columbus made three more voyages, and then he basically retired, rich and things like that. Now, like I said, other countries started checking out, exploring out west. Portugal was one of the big ones. And in 1494, the Treaty of, I'm going to kill this word again, Tordesillas was written up. Now, I'm going to be explaining this a little bit more in another TikTok video. Okay. But basically, it gave the rights of all the land to Spain beyond the demarcation line. And it's a line driven up on a map. And basically, Spain was given that land west of that. The land east of that line was given to Portugal. And again, if you want to learn more, like why was that so important, things like that, again, it'll be on a TikTok video. But Spain was like, all right, so let's start sending people over. So one of the first people who went was Hernan Cortez, which is that guy in that little white ruffle feather thing where you see around his neck. He landed in central Mexico, um, and basically he was seen as a god by the Aztecs, and he basically took advantage of that situation and defeated them, um, not only by killing them but also through diseases in 1521. The next guy was Fernando Pizarro. Now he came 11 years later after Cortez, and he didn't go to uh, Mexico. He went to Peru, and there he encountered the Incas. Now the Incas had a lot of silver and things like that, and just to make a long story short, he basically takes the king. The Incas is like, give me all your silver and things like that, or I'll kill him. And they're like, you mean this stuff? Sure, whatever. Hey. So they gave him basically the silver, and he still killed the king. And the last real important explorer was Juan Ponce de Leon, and he claimed Florida. Now, why is that important? Because as you're going to see later on, when the American Revolution starts happening, and when the United States start having problems with Native Americans, Spain actually plays a role, and it's because they own Florida. So you're gonna learn more about that later on. So keep that in the back of your head. Now, why Florida though? The legend is he was actually looking for a legend, the Fountain of Youth. You know, the famous fountain. If you drink from it, you stay young forever. Supposedly, he was supposed to be looking for that, and he was told it would be in the land where Florida was, and it wasn't. Okay. Now, if you look at that bottom map, let me move the video or the little picture thing there. All that gray area, that's what Spain controlled. all the way from Florida to California and all the way down into Southern America. Spain owned a lot of territory on this side of the world. Okay. Now, what did the people do? So, people from Spain came over to the New World, settled, and they were basically told, okay, now that you're in New Spain, you need to do some stuff. You need to either create a farm, you need to start mining, looking for gold, silver, jewels, things like that. You can create a cattle ranch. Okay, you can make those things, and the indigenous people they can work for you, basically making them slaves. But the number one thing they all had to do, every single person who came over from Spain to New Spain, they had to spread the Catholic faith, spread Catholicism. That's why a lot of Mexicanos and Latinos uh, are Catholic. You know, now missions were set up to, in a sense, kind of help the uh, the natives, the indigenous people, to become more Catholicism and not follow their ancient ways and their ancient deities and things like that. So they were created about the 1600s up until the 1700s, and believe it or not, some are still up to date. If you go here, especially in California, along the coastline area, there's still missions there you can go visit. And if you notice too, if you look at the map of California, right along the coastline, you'll see a lot of Santa Maria, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz. So there's a lot of saint names along the coast. So again, if you have some time, just look at it. Look at the coastline area of California, and you'll see a lot of Santa, Santa, Santa. You know. Now, I don't know if you saw on the map in the last slide, but again, um, if you want to check it out, check it out. France actually claimed land from the Gulf of Mexico and up the Mississippi River. Okay, so Spain had part of the uh, uh, United States. France had part of the United States, and the English people are starting to come in, starting to make a pilgrimage to the East Coast. Now, one of the first establishments was this place called Jamestown. Now, Jamestown was a colony that was set up by investors. People put up money to pay for labor, for food, for whatever the people need. And once those people landed in America, those people were then going to work either farming or digging things up from mining and try to find valuables, and then that valuable will be sent back to England, sold, and then those investors would get money back. You know, so that town was created by investors because they felt, hey, there's some valuable stuff in America, and they were right. In Jamestown, the ground was, believe it or not, very, very good for a particular crop, and that was tobacco. Now, I've had some students in the past ask me, well, didn't they have tobacco in England and stuff like that? It's like, yeah, they had stuff that they could smoke, like, like different type of herbs and things like that. But the soil in America, specifically in around the South area, was really rich, and the crops grew bigger, faster. The crops gave a better product. And once those tobacco leaves went to England and people started smoking the tobacco from America, they were just like, wow, this is so much better than what we got. We want more of it. And a lot of people started coming to America. All right. So here's my question to you. Let me bring this down. All right. Why do you think some groups in the North America continent decided to settle and abandoned their nomad lifestyle? Remember, those guys used to follow the food, and once it got cold, they knew, hey, we gotta head south. You know, they knew where food would be. What crops to eat, what not to eat. Because again, they traveled, and for centuries they did that. So why do you think all of a sudden just some one of these tribes said, you know what, we're gonna stay here. Let's see if we can grow some food. Let's see if we can capture some of these wild animals and calm them down and domesticate them. Why would they do that? Why do you think? Okay. Why would they do that? Abandon centuries of information just to settle in one area. What do you think? Okay. So, be sure again to write your sentence in a completely. Um, if you don't know how to, start the sentence, there's the writing prompt right there, you know, to help you out. Again, if you don't know how to start it, you could just do that first one. I believe that some groups lived in a settlement because, and explain why do you think they decided to settle, stay in one place. Okay. So once you're done with this, you're done with your lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Um, the next lessons we're gonna be getting into the next like 3, 4 is going to be starting the beginning parts of the American Revolution and how our country became independent from Britain. Okay, so you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.